Hauppauge Public Library, our formation in the first 20 years. Acknowledgments. We thank everyone who shared their time, memories, and remembrances to help us compile this history of the first 20 years of the Hauppauge Public Library, including Teresa Arroyo, Steve Bard, Dorothy Becker, Anna Beltrani, Catherine Bernston, Judith Berry, Matthew Bollerman, Kathleen Brett, Michelle Brosnan, Peter Crociata, Benita Hammer, Jill Kenyon, Donna Mosseri, Jerry Nichols, Fran Palumbo, Ralph Plotke, Carol Poma, Kevin Verbisi, and Krista Zaros. Additional information was obtained from the archives in the Long Island Room at Smithtown Library, and we thank Karen Zadek for her assistance locating the information. Instrumental in conducting the interviews and sketching out the story were Paul Arfin and Nancy Picard. Dedication. This history is dedicated to the residents of the Hauppauge Public Library District, past, present, and future residents, its founders, staff, and all who have helped support the mission of the library. Introduction. To celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Hauppauge Public Library, we have endeavored to share with you the library's story. Matthew Bollerman, CEO of the library, explains why we decided to publish this booklet. It was time to capture the history of the library and to make the celebration of our first 20 years of service to the community. Our history is going to continue and the new things are going to happen, but it is a way to cement our story, have it all compiled, before we lose the voices that would add to its richness. Current and former trustees, staff, and community members were interviewed to help us document the library's history. Current library staff searched the library's extensive archive for photographs. We hope you enjoy the story of the first 20 years of the Hauppauge Public Library. Our beginnings. Hauppauge Public Library's history is relatively short compared with other libraries on Long Island and in the United States. The first public library in the United States, the Library Company of Philadelphia, was founded in 1731 by Benjamin Franklin. It was a subscription library supported by its members. The earliest public libraries on Long Island were established in the late 19th century. The Bryant Library in Roslyn was founded in 1878, and Emma S. Clark Memorial Library in Setauket was established in 1891. Plans for a library in the Islip portion of Hauppauge began much later, in the 1960s, and it took decades before the library opened to the public on July 9, 2001. From 1964 to 1966, a federal grant funded a small library in Hauppauge called the Hauppauge Reading Center. According to the Islip Bulletin, the Reading Center was, quote, a small public library run entirely by volunteers, end quote. It closed on September 30, 1966, when the 2-year lease for the space expired and funding ran out. At this time, volunteers and community members formed the Hauppauge Library Committee to advocate for a state-chartered public library in the town of Islip portion of Hauppauge. The committee, led by Chairperson Parker Kendall, was successful in their efforts to pass a bill in the New York State Legislature to establish a library. The bill was introduced into the Assembly by Prescott B. Huntington and the Senate by Bernard Smith. Upon the signing of the bill by Governor Nelson Rockefeller, Parker Kendall stated, "We've been working for more than 2 years to bring good library service to the community, and now the goal is in sight." This was wonderful news, however it took many more years to attain this goal. A second bill to establish a library in Hauppauge was approved by Governor Rockefeller on June 17, 1971, spurring another attempt by the Hauppauge Library Committee to explore the possibility of establishing a library. In 1974, with Maxine Postal serving as coordinator of the committee, 1,500 signatures were gathered to petition the Hauppauge School Board to hold a special election to establish a library in Hauppauge and select 5 library trustees. The election was scheduled to put up for vote on October 8, 1975, and successfully passed with 449 residents voting yes and 397 voting no. The first trustees elected were Maxine S. Postal, Dominic A. Camera, Alan M. Kanawiski, Philip Pecula, and Elsie T. Schmid. Following the successful vote for the establishment of a special library district in Hauppauge, the Hauppauge Public Library trustees drafted a budget for voters to approve on December 17, 1975. The budget included rental of space for the library and limited library services, and would have given Hauppauge Public Library card holders access to shared library services in Suffolk County. The vote failed 485 to 167. As a result of the defeated budget, community members formed another group to advocate for the library, called Friends of the Library. The Friends mailed letters, designed posters, circulated petitions, and held open meetings to support the continued effort to establish a library in Hauppauge. The April 13, 1976 election was another attempt to pass the library budget and was defeated. As a result, an election held on January 26, 1977, included two propositions. The first was to dissolve the library district. The second was to pass a library budget. The community voted in favor of dissolving the library district. In 1985, the Friends of the Library organized another public referendum to form a library, pass a budget in the amount of $310,000, and elect a board of 5 trustees. At the time, community members were concerned about the location of the new library. They feared that the library might possibly be housed in the Whippoorwill School, which was closed in 1981 due to carcinogenic gases detected at a nearby landfill. Although Robert Sheridan, director of the Suffolk Cooperative Library System, explained at a public meeting that the location of the library would be determined after the referendum approval, the June 26 proposal was defeated with a vote of 466 to 330. Janet Mallon, a Hauppauge resident and friend who was instrumental in organizing the proposal, commented on the defeat in the Smithtown Messenger. She stated that the campaign involved a lot of emotional and physical energy, and there were people a little apprehensive as to where the building would be. That sort of thing would have been up to an elected board of trustees. As a result of the defeated proposal, residents living in the Islip Town portion of Hauppauge continued to purchase library cards from neighboring libraries to access library services for the next 14 years. The purchased cards allowed for limited access to library services, and there were many restrictions. In November 1999, New York State regulations regarding the sale of library cards changed. Jerry Nichols, the director of the Suffolk Cooperative Library System, informed the libraries near Hauppauge, Central Islip, Smithtown, and Comac that they needed to cease offering library cards to people living in the Hauppauge area beginning December 31, 1999. As a result, Hauppauge Islip town residents could no longer use neighboring libraries and needed to plan for their own public library in order to gain access to library services. Seeing a need for a full-service library, community members began a new campaign. New Library Campaign. A few of the community members who took part in this new campaign for the library were interviewed for this history. What follows is their recollection of the timeline of events that led up to the opening of the Hauppauge Public Library. In 1990, Joe Beltrani Jr. settled in Hauppauge with his wife, Chris Ann. His parents, Anna and Joe Sr., moved to Hauppauge from Brooklyn in the early 1970s. Joe Jr. and Chris Ann were concerned that there was no local library for their children to attend and enjoy. He knew it was time to act. A few years later, in 1994, Ralph Plotke moved to Hauppauge with his wife Veronica and young child. They had purchased library services through the Smithtown Library, but were not happy with that arrangement. They had been big library users since they were children. Not all of the services offered to residents who purchased library cards were available to Hauppauge Islip residents. The Plotke family was frustrated that their community had no full-service library available to them, so they resolved to become more involved. Both the Beltrani family and the Plotke family were present at a public meeting called by Jerry Nichols, executive director of the Suffolk Cooperative Library System, in fall 1999. About 200 to 300 people were present as Nichols explained the recent changes in the state education regulations. The regulations stipulated that beginning December 31, 1999, Neighboring libraries would not be able to sell their previously issued limited access cards to Hauppauge Islip community members. Residents decided that this was not a fair or equitable way to provide library services to areas without a local public library. Prior to this public meeting, sometime in mid-1999, Nichols had begun to work with the superintendent of the Hauppauge School District to provide access to the Hauppauge High School Library to all district residents after 4 p.m. This proved to be an unrealistic alternative for the community. Anna Beltrani, Joe Jr.'s mother, joined the Hauppauge Library Advocates in 1999 after retiring from her career as a teaching assistant in Hauppauge School District. Along with her very good friend and neighbor Michelle Brosnan, Anna walked many blocks delivering flyers and knocking on doors to encourage residents to attend meetings to discuss the library. Mrs. Beltrani was met with enthusiasm and hope as she spoke to her neighbors about establishing a library. She had very few naysayers. Their concern was about a possible raise in taxes. She declared that through a small raise in taxes, they would get a really big bang for their buck. A steering committee, created to organize a campaign to motivate the community about establishing a library, was formed at this time and grew to over 35 residents. Ralph Plotke and Joe Beltrani became the first co-chairs. The relationship between these two men was one of mutual respect and great admiration. Committee members reached out to neighbors and friends, sharing their ideas for building a library and asking residents about the kinds of services they wanted and needed. Many weekends passed while they walked and talked to every homeowner. They knocked on doors, spoke at the Islip Chamber of Commerce meetings, met with religious leaders and the Knights of Columbus, and met with staff in the schools. According to Anna Beltrani, the steering committee took its time to understand and then communicate the requirements necessary to establish a true community library. They discussed many models and were prepared to make their recommendations public. The committee undertakings culminated with a public meeting attended by over 500 residents. By March 2000, the steering committee, with help from Jerry Nichols, accomplished several critical tasks to get the library started. Hold a special election for the library, identify nominations for the Board of Trustees, and file a certificate with the State Department. On October 3, 2000, a vote took place where the community voted to establish a public library, approve a budget of $800,000, and elect 5 trustees to the board. The vote was almost 3-1 in favor of the library and the budget. The Board of Trustees consisted of Joseph Beltrani Jr. as president, Ralph Plotke as first vice president, Robert Druckenmiller as second vice president, Carol Poma as secretary, and Peter Crociata as treasurer. The hard fight for a library in Hauppauge was finally realized. The early years. With a community-approved budget and board, Hauppauge Public Library was established. The library board appointed Kevin Verbesey to be the director. Verbesey hired 2 librarians, Allison O'Reilly and Diane Letty, and 1 clerk, Kathleen Brett, to set up the new library. He was also tasked with working with a local commercial real estate agent to secure a rental space for the library. Library staff worked both from home and at the Suffolk Cooperative Library System in Bellport to prepare library items for the new space and to plan library programs and services. Once the modest collection of books, movies, and other materials were prepared, a temporary space at St. Thomas More Church was set up for the community during the summer of 2001. Guests visited the space to obtain library cards, borrow from the collection of items shelved on mobile carts, and attend programs. The library's first summer reading club was launched in this space and was positively received by the community. Library services and hours were limited, but that changed rather quickly when a large space was secured at 380 Town Line Road. The space at 380 Town Line Road was used for a brief time, from late 2001 through August 2002. The library then moved to a larger space at 601 Veterans Memorial Highway, where it would stay until April 2018. Library at 601 Veterans Memorial Highway opens. The official opening of the library at 601 Veterans Memorial Highway was on October 27, 2002. Community members, staff, and library trustees gathered to celebrate. What follows is the dedication speech given by Jerry Nichols. His message is a tribute to the perseverance of the many Hauppauge residents who work so hard to make the library a reality. October 27, 2002, dedication of the Hauppauge Library. For those of us who have been around a bit, we recognize that it has taken 30 years to get to this place. I'm here to tell you that it was worth the effort and that your adventure of learning, of imagination, and of community has just begun. It is a day of celebration, and I think you all deserve the credit for this remarkable achievement. This may be the dream of a few, but is the work of many. As we gather here, it is with a certain sense of pride in this facility, the beginning it represents, and the promise it holds, pride in our purpose, and pride in the place we live. So to the library trustees, Kevin, and the Hauppauge Public Library staff, congratulations on behalf of the 55 public libraries that are the Suffolk Cooperative Library System. In a world of compromise and concession, you have aspired to excellence. The people of Hauppauge deserve our congratulations and respect as well for their willingness to invest in the future through this wonderful institution. It is truly an expression of community pride. For those who have worked so hard, this sense of pride is fortified with a sense of purpose. A noble purpose, we believe, that it is right to share with others the wisdom gained by humanity over the millennia, that each individual, no matter who they are or from where they come, has the potential to change the world, that the challenges we face as a society can be met by an informed citizenry, that the opportunities of the future are limited only by our own imagination. This is why we who love libraries come here, to tell the children our legends and our stories, to instill a lifelong love of learning, to transform information into knowledge, and with luck, perhaps to capture a bit of wisdom along the way. A celebration like today affords us an opportunity to reflect on our purpose. Billy Collins, America's Poet Laureate, recently referred to libraries as intellectual campfires. Like campfires, they are a place of light and, we hope, of truth that draw the curious to them. And like that campfire, the library is, at its very heart, a place of stories. Now, did you ever wonder what makes us human? I'm not talking in a religious sense, such as the soul or spirit, but in an intellectual sense. Why are we different from all the other species of this world? People once believed it is our language, our ability to communicate, but anyone who has seen the dance of an insect or heard the song of a whale knows this cannot be true for us alone. I submit that though there are many qualities that comprise our very humanity, there is one talent that not only makes us different, but also has driven the further development of our species and ultimately our civilization, and that is the ability to tell stories. In prehistoric times, the skill to decipher an animal's track and to plan the hunt, in other words, to read what had happened in the past and to imagine what would happen in the future, made all the difference in our survival. Those who could read the signs and tell their story prospered. Can you imagine our lives without stories? Every day we trade stories with our children, our spouse, at parties. Stories are woven into our every conversation. The first fish story was probably about the woolly mammoth that got away. It is no wonder that in so-called primitive cultures, the man or woman of power and magic was the one with the stories. In our society, this library is a place of magic and power because it is the place of stories and wisdom. It's the place where, from childhood to old age, we come to participate in humanity's conversation. I believe it is our ability, or perhaps our obsession with stories and storytelling, that makes us human and has brought our civilization to this point. We should also recognize that libraries have a special place in America. It was Thomas Jefferson who described information as the currency of democracy. Of course, Jefferson, whose personal collection formed the foundation of our nation's library, the Library of Congress, recognized the fact that an institution such as a library is a place of vision and of revolution, where people are free to explore new ideas, to learn what they wish, as they wish, to lubricate the wheels of change in a truly free society. Perhaps he recognized, to paraphrase his own words, that the library could be a place where the tree of liberty might be refreshed by education and understanding rather than by the blood of patriots and tyrants. A more contemporary American, Toni Morrison, put it this way: access to knowledge is the supreme act of a truly great civilization. Of all the institutions that purport to do this, free libraries stand virtually alone in accomplishing this mission. In recent years, people have predicted the death of the library due to our changing society and the onslaught of technology. Nevertheless, our role has remained the same, adjusting and adapting to change. In fact, it seems the more we witness the spread of technology and the ubiquitous nature of the internet, the more communities like yours have come to recognize the importance of place. A place like this, filled with ideas, with mystery, and with wonder. Together, this sense of place and of purpose articulates a promise not only to our community today, but also to those who came before, and again, to generations yet to come. It is a promise by this community to past generations that they will keep their stories and their wisdom alive. It is the promise of today's citizens that you will offer them the opportunity and wisdom to make the best of their lives. And it is the promise this community makes to future generations that here there will always be a place of mystery, of wonder, and of stories. That here, in this place, we believe in the wisdom of the past and the promise of the future. There is one more feeling we share about this institution, and that is a sense of potential. For every person who ventures here, in whatever manner, for whatever purpose, has the potential to change themselves, to change their community, and perhaps to change their world. This library building, what it holds, and what it stands for, expresses our belief that in a democracy, all people must share in the wealth of knowledge. Because in our society, we believe that anyone and everyone has the potential to make a difference, has the potential to move civilization perhaps just one more millimeter toward a brighter tomorrow. So I thank you, all of you, for creating this marvelous expression of purpose, of place, and of potential. It tells all who see it of your faith in the future and your commitment to your community. Cherish it and use it wisely. A library grows in Hauppauge. At 601 Veterans Memorial Highway, the library began to offer a wide range of services to its residents, including public computers, classes and events for all ages, excursions to New York City, and museums in Nassau and Suffolk counties, indoor and outdoor concerts, technology training, and more. The collection grew over time to include popular materials, books, movies, magazines, and newspapers, reference materials, databases, museum passes, video and board games, guitars, binoculars, and other items of high interest to the community. The library became a place for community groups, organizations, students, and business people to meet. Scouts frequented the library to meet and earn badges. Business owners and professionals used the resources to improve their business and meet with others. Retired community members met to play games, watch movies, and socialize, just to name a few of the ways the library was used. It quickly became a hub for community gathering. In the early years, Library Director Kevin Verbisi used a team approach to find the right combination of programs and services for the Hauppauge community. The library reached out to the Friends of the Arts, later called the Friends of the Library, for input. This organization was instrumental in bringing the Hauppauge community into the library and was focused on including all families and community members. Helen Lustberg, a member of the Friends of the Arts, recommended that the library offer music concerts during the summer. This idea was realized and has become an annual event, with the Friends and Library hosting several outdoor concerts in the parking lot. The Friends, led by Anna Beltrani and Rose Malazzo, also organized an annual juried community photography contest. Winning photographs are now displayed on the walls of the library. Through book and cake sales, direct appeals, and raffles, the Friends raised money to support many events at the library, including lectures, concerts, and performances for all ages, to make the library the best possible community center. Search for a permanent home. The Board of Trustees of the library began looking for a permanent home almost as soon as it had opened its doors at 601 Veterans Memorial Highway in August 2002. For 5 years, the board and library administration visited properties within the Islip portion of the Hauppauge School District boundaries. All of these properties were expensive, and the board felt it was not feasible to ask the community to finance their purchase, in addition to building or renovating a building. A permanent home committee was convened of citizens who wanted to see the library have a place of their own. Judy Berry, library director, helped the Board of Trustees in 2007 with approaching the town of Islip for help in locating a property. Hidden Pond Park was suggested, and a parcel was located within the park. In October 2007, the town passed a resolution allocating an acre of parkland for the library in exchange for the acquisition of additional park lands and/or capital improvements to existing park and recreation facilities. In October 2008, Governor Patterson signed legislation allowing the sale. Then, in October 2010, a contract of sale was executed between the town and the library for $270,000. Each of these steps required advocacy and community support. Once the land at Hidden Pond Park was secured, the Board of Trustees undertook a process to involve the community in informing them about the purpose, goals, and conceptual design for the project. These sessions, called charrettes, took place in June and July 2013. At each meeting, over 50 community members attended. During the first charrette, a purpose statement was written: to build Hauppauge's permanent community library as a safe environment for all, in a way that embraces intergenerational collaboration to develop community priorities that use resources creatively, regenerate ecological health, and celebrate diversity, so that the project inspires personal and professional growth and fulfillment, generates continuous community participation, and enhances the quality of life in the park, Hauppauge, and the world indefinitely. At the second charrette, the goals to achieve this purpose statement included 1. Within budget, 2. Connection to outdoors, 3. Functional flexibility, 4. Hive of activity, 5. Indoor environmental quality, 6. Copious daylighting, 7. Durable, physical and operational, 8. Energy efficient, 9. A cultural arts center, 10. Ease of access inviting, 11. Tranquil natural landscape. The Board of Trustees asked the CEO, Matt Bollerman, and his staff to write a plan for the building based on the public's purpose and goals. This plan included the number of square feet it would take to accomplish the desired activities. It called for a building size of 18,000 square feet, 4,500 square feet larger than the space at 601 Veterans Memorial Highway. The board approved the program before the third charrette took place. The third charrette focused on conceptual design. Now that the library has an 18,000 square foot plan, where should areas go? Where is the front door? Where does the children's department go? 1 floor or 2? After 8 hours of discussion, many items were settled. A design team met after the 3 charrettes to work on the concepts. This group met in person 3 times to consolidate the community's desires and to make sure the purpose, goals, and initial conceptual designs were followed. Weekly phone calls were held to ensure everything was on schedule. In January 2014, the Board of Trustees approved the site plan, ground floor plan, budget, and schedule, and took the steps necessary to put up a bond vote in October 2014 for the construction of a new building at Hidden Pond Park. The October 2014 bond vote failed. As a result of the defeated bond, the board re-examined other options for a permanent home for the library. These included existing buildings, renting other space within the district, and a reduced cost for the building at Hidden Pond Park. Using results from a survey conducted by the Board of Trustees of all who voted on the bond in October 2014, along with the comments received by the community members and ongoing investigations on cost, a decision was made to pursue a less expensive building at Hidden Pond Park. The cost was reduced and put up to vote again in June 2015. That bond did not pass. After the bond for a new facility at Hidden Pond Park was defeated, the Board of Trustees hired a real estate broker to help locate all available properties in Hauppauge Islip. The properties needed to be at least 18,000 square feet and as centrally located as possible. A number of properties were examined that met the criteria. A proposal to buy an existing facility was explored and dropped. A short list of properties was pursued. 1373 Veterans Memorial Highway was identified to have the best combination of price, availability, and location. At their March 16, 2017 meeting, the Board of Trustees agreed to lease for 30 years a portion of 1373-1 Veterans Memorial Highway for library use. Since the failure of the June 2015 Hidden Pond Park bond vote, the Board of Trustees has spent almost 2 years looking for another place for the library to function from, said Stephen Bard, President of the Board of Trustees. We are very excited by the location and the increased space for more and varied library services. The Board of Trustees has been looking at properties to buy or lease, including vacant land and existing buildings. We looked at buying an existing building, but the cost did not make sense, Mr. Bard shared. The best option was a long-term lease. Once the lease was secured, the Board of Trustees entrusted CEO Matthew Bollerman to work with the staff to develop plans for the space at 1373 Veterans Memorial Highway. Bollerman formed a staff design team. The team was tasked with incorporating the design features and concepts proposed in previous plans. Library design and furniture installation company A.R. Kropp & Sons worked with the staff design team to plan the space and select furniture. In just over 13 months, the space at 1373 Veterans Memorial Highway opened to the public on April 28, 2018. A celebration was held on opening day with approximately 200 community members in attendance. With the increased space at 1373, the library's service offerings grew to include a room for technology instruction, Classroom D, a music and video production room, the Media Studio, 2 study rooms, and a conference room. New technology and modern conveniences were added to the large meeting spaces, including smartboards, sinks, dishwashers, and refrigerators. The library's programs and services at 1373 were soon tested by the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Although the library's doors were closed to the public for several months, the library continued to serve the public remotely. Classes and events were presented remotely on Zoom and YouTube. Reference services were offered by phone and email. Take and make craft and activity kits were made available, and the library's electronic book collection was expanded to meet the needs of the community. A special effort was made by the library to connect with the community during the pandemic. Library staff members were assigned to call 7,000 community members twice to check in with everyone and ask if they needed assistance with anything. Common requests were for assistance downloading ebooks and audiobooks, how to view virtual library programs, and how to access food pantries and home delivery services. Other community members noted that they were lonely and missed socialization, and library staff offered ideas to help them stay connected. As the Hauppauge Public Library reaches its 20th anniversary, COVID-19 restrictions have eased and the community is beginning to reconnect in person and enjoy all that the library offers. The pandemic presented the library with many challenges, but it has adapted and continued to remain an essential asset to the residents of Hauppauge. The story of the Hauppauge Public Library stands as a testimony to the community's commitment to improving the lives of Hauppauge residents. For 20 years, the library has been a hub for the community's educational, informational, and entertainment needs. A generation of individuals and families have enjoyed the many benefits and services that the library provides. Future generations will have an opportunity to enjoy the same benefits thanks to the dedication and support of the community.